What's up, y'all? It's Shuffle here with Miskatonic Memorialist, friend of the channel, all around great guy, and lore master for Darkest Dungeon, second likely only to Chris. And so this collaboration video that we're going to do is focusing on every mostly relevant Darkest Dungeon 1 reference that we can find in Darkest Dungeon 2. We have 7 pages of stuff going everywhere. Enemies, barks, items. You think it's probably here. I think I just said it's 7 pages. Miskatonic did the vast majority of the heavy lifting, so we're very thankful for that. And not to yap too much, I will now open the floor to our illustrious guest.
Thanks, Shuff. It's, yes, I am the Miskatonic Memorialist, friend of the show. We've been talking about this for a while. We wanted to go through all the references to Darkest Dungeon 1 and Darkest Dungeon 2. And I think we've compiled a really good list of just everything that we could think about. I think between the two of us, we've covered just about everything. But there's still a few stuff that didn't make the cut or we just left off because it wasn't relevant. Nonetheless, very cool. So leave a comment below if we miss something or think that something's worth a second examination.
Yes, great job. Definitely get the viewers involved like a scavenger hunt if there's something that you feel warrants further discussion that we missed. Because this is everything we could find between, two knowledgeable people, but that doesn't mean we found everything. We're going to start with some of the more fast and furious surface level stuff, and the two of us were talking. We decided to do in items. So we are going to start there.
We start in in items, and then if there's something relevant to it, we'll just kind of chime in with a bark. Very much like kind of like in the game, a character has something happen, they just bark it out. So
yeah,
that's what we're going to do too.
That's exactly it. It's in the spirit of the freaking game.
Also, I gotta say, because I see the blasphemous idol right there.
Yeah.
Yes, the Iron Crown appears all through this game. In both games, it's just everywhere.
Yeah, that's also good to know. It's kind of like a Where's Waldo in freaking Darkest Dungeon. Is there a crown here? Most of the time, there probably is. All right, so just scrolling down, we have our own list, but obviously we'll stop right here at the wine. But for those of you who played the first game, the wine, very iconic, was the source of everything almost in the first game.
Yeah, it's where it all started.
Yeah, do you want to touch on that?
I mean, obviously, the wine is a reference to the Crimson Court, which is returning, actually, in Kingdoms Module 3, so look for that coming soon. But, yeah, the blood was the Countess's blood that was mixed in with wine, and just the single drop of it gave the ancestor the vision of the Darkest Dungeon. And it drove everyone else in the courtyard who actually drank a full glass or a full sip. It drove them to cannibalistic rage, and they just devoured themselves and each other.
Yeah, and then they become more insect-like. So that's how the Crimson Curse started. And that's also why the blood is an item that in the first game was supposed to slow it down, help satiate that craving. But we are not at the blood yet. So these next couple, not really anything, but I didn't even notice this until you showed me, and I got pissed off when I saw this thing.
Yeah, so apparently the dev bias extends to whittling fingers.
I know.
Or what was it? Whittling tools. Yep. The carving is a highwayman complete with the dirk and flintlock.
You don't even notice in game because it's tiny. It's like this size or smaller.
It's so small you don't even see it, and then it's like, oh. Do we want to talk about the stitching kit?
Oh yeah. So the stitching kits, this may not necessarily be directly, but the stitching kit looks almost reminiscent of the Plague Doctor Trinket, which is a dissection kit, which is largely for the same thing, except dissecting is for autopsy, whereas stitching, obviously the person's alive. So
she went from working on the dead to working on the living, is what I took away from that. Oh, here we go with some of the books. Here's a big one.
Yeah, the Body Tales book.
Yes, so that is a reference to the Vestal's comic and backstory. They look up similar to the couple that she was spying on in the garden. I'm not exactly sure why there was a couple in the garden next to a Vestal nunnery, but hey, you know what? That's why it's in the Book of Body Tales.
I know, it's almost too spicy to be real.
This is yours. This one you told me.
Yes, so
My time in the desert. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't notice this at first either. This took a minute. I don't remember if a viewer told me or if I eventually discovered it, but this is likely written by a cultist because of just his backstory and how he achieved power. But the biggest tell here was that this item here, this is the Vial of Sand trinket, which is his Crimson Quartz set, which, you know, one of his best trinkets possible. The same trinket. Likely everything here was about a cultist. What was his time in the desert? Is this when he ascended to power? Not entirely sure, but I also don't know the barks related to this book, if there are any.
Yes, there is. A few characters have certain barks. I shouldn't say certain character. Every character has a specific bark related to every book. And for the occultist, it says, I don't have the exact quote, unfortunately, but it's, I'm in the mood for some nostalgia, I believe is what he says, or something similar to that. So he's definitely been to the desert, and when he reads the book, he reflects on his time there.
Interesting. So is it likely he wrote it, or is it just heavily implied, or?
I think he wrote it, and I'm in the mood for nostalgia, he's remembering when he went out there. That's how I view it in my headcanon.
Oh, I totally agree.
If you want to do the creative insults, because I believe I have the quote for that one.
I believe you do. Let me take a look here. So the Book of Creative Insults, I didn't catch this one at all. I mean, it does look like the cork symbol, but... Okay, so what you had down is that Audrey claims to know the author, which is referring to either her husband or the jester, both possible. So do you have the exact quote on hand?
I mean, to be fair, her husband was definitely a very abusive man.
Yes.
I think that goes without saying. So, Book of Creative Insults. I know the author, actually. That's what she says.
There's a bunch of bookmarks, too. Like, they picked the best ones.
Yeah.
Like, these are all your mom jokes. They have to be.
You just never know when you need to insult a fanatic.
Yeah. It's weird that Audrey is, like, well-read enough to know well, obviously know the author, but, like, she actually read it. So I guess that's kind of up her alley in terms of reading material.
Another one is that if you give it to the jester, he'll say, are you trying to insult me by saying that I need to read this? Like, come on.
It's kind of the same thing with the cultist. Like, did he write it at that point, or is it more just he thinks his insult game is so good that he doesn't need someone else's help?
I mean, Jester does have some pretty good barks.
Yeah, he does. Some of the best.
Would you say he's the Deadpool of the ensemble?
Absolutely. You know, if he broke the fourth wall, I don't think anyone would give a crap. All right, the next one you have here is the Book of Touching Dirges, and this is very...
Man with a lute on the cover. Yep.
Yeah. And so, likely Jester.
Likely Jester, likely just maybe something he's played before. It's just very... You know, whenever there's a man with a lute, you gotta assume that it's someone we know.
Just like real life. Anytime you see a lute, it's gotta be Ted. Every time.
Yep. Fucking Ted. Oh, can I swear?
You can. And thank you for going along with my horrible joke. That makes me feel a lot better. Part of me wants to think that Baldwin did some with the poetry. Oh, is this his sword right here?
Yep. So there is actually a Baldwin quote. He has a line specifically. Let me pull it up here. I think this one was written in my court.
Ah.
We just passed one for Abomination, which was the wax incultant. Is that what it is?
Inoculant?
Inoculant. Sorry.
It's okay.
He has a line that says, I used to know this recipe well. Mine were better.
Damn. Okay. Okay, so he is an alchemist. I mean, that makes sense.
He is an alchemist, and what was he using it for? I think he was trying to avoid whatever affliction he currently has.
You know, they talk about how soap destroys 99.9% of bacteria. That was the point one.
You know where you won't find any bacteria is in the tin delicacies.
That is true. These are, I mean, if you just want a straight up MRE or something like that. You know, it's interesting that they're called delicacies because this is straight up the food from the first game. Right there. Same green tin can, same, you know, big tin with a orange band on it, the bread or whatever that is, and the bottle too. All of it's here in the tin delicacies. And I thought that was cool. the whiskey. This is like the first thing that kind of started some of this was like, wow, they really slam any reference possible into anything. And the whiskey bottle is one of them.
Yep, it's the coat of arms from the estate.
Yes, and if you are unaware, the ancestors' coat of arms was in fact that raven holding, I believe, a shield. Makes another reappearance right here.
On a flask of all things, so what does that tell us?
What does that tell us? That's interesting. Part of the ancestors' fortune, actually, like, making alcohol? I don't think he ever talked about that.
You know, they never did explain where he got all that money, except from the pelagic creatures, but that was later. So,
yes, yeah.
Ooh, actually, maybe they gave it to the army, to their, like, standing army whiskey flasks with, you know, the coat of arms on it, and then over time, it just passes through and or passes down and is sent elsewhere.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. That would be pretty interesting, too. All right.
Signature items.
Yes, down to these. So the signature items are pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff here reference-wise in terms of just backstories, but there's two that stuck out. The first was Morbid Joke. Whenever I see this, I always think of, in Darkest Dungeon 1, Highwayman had a camp skill called Gallows Humor. And so only one other character had this, and that was Grave Robber. She also has this same one. They're the only two people with this camp skill. Might be saying, why is that relevant? Well, Morbid Joke could be considered a gallows type of humor, and when you use this with Highwayman and Grave Robber together, most people usually react to the joke that Dismas tells, but Audrey had a bark that was akin to, "That's nothing, did you hear about?" And then she tells a different joke, which is kind of insinuating that the two of them both still share that same sense of humor.
So the other item that bears some importance, I mean, they all do, but the other one was the unique reliquary, which bears a striking resemblance to a curio in Darkest Dungeon 1. That's the religious reliquaries. I believe we find those in the ruins. It was one of the quest lines. So I'm not exactly sure what unique reliquaries were also hidden in the estate, but it seems like there were more than a couple, and Church definitely keeps those on standby as needed.
Why would you call it unique when you have multiple? Curious. Very curious.
You know, maybe each one is unique, but there are many different boxes they come in. Then we have deliverables.
We have one, the puzzling trapezohedron, which is found in the first game. So collector would drop either one of the heads until you have all three, or most of the time, and you would drop this gem, which was worth the most money in the entire game. These are also found in secret rooms, which were assumed to be collector's stash because it had the heads in there as well. And now they returned in DD1 or DD2 as something you trade in for a ton of baubles. Which is nice to see that come back with the character, or the enemy in this case, that is most iconic to have it.
So of the roaming bosses, which one was your favorite?
In this game or in the first game?
In Darkest Dungeon 1. Yeah, in Darkest Dungeon 1.
That is a tough one. I can tell you it wasn't Fnatic.
Oh, what? I mean, I agree, but he's still my favorite designed character.
Design, amazing. Fighting Fnatic, absolute... I don't know, absolute
scenario.
Something. Yeah. Cage Creature, this was one... This might be a bit of a stretch. So, this is just a lump of flesh inside of a cage. And to me, I felt that this one was reminiscent of the flesh itself in the first game. Because, I mean, you look at the multi-eyed pig-looking head, and this one kind of has the same tints, like color, and then also the eyes. This kind of looks like a snout down here. So I think that this is some of the flesh that they went to study. A couple other reasons, or at least the main reason, is also the pulsing heart, which was the boss trophy from killing the flesh. You got its heart, and in this game, this also gives you a heart.
I mean, yeah, that really summarizes it perfectly. I think it looks like the flesh, it acts like the flesh, it gives you an item related to the flesh. I mean, pig is a pig.
I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know, what's your favorite like region boss from the first game?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
If you say the cannon, I'm ending this video.
No, not the pounder, but we will get to that. I really do like the prophet.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
that
that's a good
boss
choice.
fight was that boss fight, and like he is just so out of place in the estate. And when you really look at the boss fight from a macro perspective, it's almost like he's on your side.
He should be, right? But you end up fighting him.
Yeah, and it's just like that's another reason I like it, because his story is so tragic. Like he showed up, he warned everyone what was going to happen, and the ancestor proceeded to repeatedly murder him or attempt to murder him, and then finally just drove him insane. The formless sculpture, it doesn't look exactly the same, but if you go back into Darkest Dungeon 1 and look at some of the backgrounds, you'll see that they have these giant statues of humanoids or humans. It just kind of reminded me of that when I look at it. Like, and you only saw them in the Darkest Dungeon, and I think one of the rare antiques that the antiquarian can find is something similar to that.
Oh yeah.
Who knows where they found that thing or what they plan to do with it, but just looking at it is like a mixture of human tentacles. It's like very reminiscent of the Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah, that, good catch. Yeah, it feels like it should be something like very specific, but it also kind of just encapsulates or whatever the theme itself in something like this.
It feels like one thing is that you can see that it's missing its head and arms.
Yeah.
So it's like, what else is it missing? And then when you look at it too, it's like it has the tendrils. And if we look back at the monsters or the enemies in Darkest Dungeon 1's dungeon, a lot of them were half human, half tentacled creatures. Like that was their final, that was them gaining the gift of the heart.
I think your idea carries more weight considering also that like just looking at what it gives you get an otherworldly fragment that's some we'll talk about later, but you get Shadowborn, you want to be in the shadows, secluded, darkly curious, occultomania. These are all things where it's like, and erudite, which means to be like more learned or learned or whatever. So it seems like all of these are really pointing towards, I guess, the character traits that one would have to investigate, the gifts of the heart, and then this is your reward for doing so.
The hovering polyhedron.
Oh yeah, what's up with this?
Well, I'll just say that color is very distinct. It is, I think it's a Color of Madness reference.
Yeah, I could totally see it.
Maybe something that broke off the comet, maybe something they found. Actually, I think they say they found this. They mentioned that they found it in, yep, I have the quote actually.
Perfect.
Recovered from a sunken temple off the windswept coast, it emanates an antediluvian power.
That's an interesting choice of words too, because antediluvian is what they use to describe the gate to the Darkest Dungeon. But then I think you're right about the Color of Madness, because just looking at this, you get ethereal dust, which comes from the comet.
So the scary song, I mean, that's a pretty siren-esque record player that they have there. So
yeah,
I think it's a reference to the Cove and the siren.
Oh yeah, just looking at it, I mean, this is the siren from the first game. It's a that's just the tale of sirens. They sing to lure sailors to their deaths and stuff like that. And then you also have this little seashell down here. Also, I didn't catch that until we blew it up, so I kind of think that confirms that this is definitely a Cove siren reference. All right, this iconic
Shambler's altar. Oh yeah,
the iconic altar returns. This was in the first game, pretty much looking the exact same, to the point where in the early days of DD2 early access, this is like the end of October. People were like kind of murmuring about Shambler, like were they going, is she in the game, is she not? And Thick Veiny Sausage, friend of the show also, was I think the first one to document it on camera, but no one was sure if Shambler would be in or not. And then Thick found her in a random road fight, and that was such an exciting moment for everyone. The portrait.
Oh yes, the unsettling painting, the unsettling portrait.
This is actually his mustache. It's not tentacle.
Just one really long mustache.
It is.
Yeah. yeah, do I even need to say anything? I mean,
it is the ancestor.
it is the ancestor. It is him. As far as any barks, a lot of people will say he looks familiar. Is all I can really say. That's kind of the gist of it for pretty much everyone. Do you want to take this one?
This?
Oh yeah,
bro.
So the vintage collection is 100% the blood. It is a Crimson Court reference, complete with an insectoid reaching out the bottom. You see the crown's or the courtyard's emblem, all shattered glasses, the blood dripping, and something reaching out.
Oh, that's so cool. But yeah, like you said, you get the wine and the blood from it. It's just someone took a wine rack out of Crimson Court and just somehow put it in the fucking tangle. Get hypo from this? Ew.
All right, so this one, the big one. Okay, one quick thing to mention about that ancestor's portrait. A lot of them talk about how vain he was. Just say. But the Memories of a Dream. And if you cannot tell, that is the Darkest Dungeon. Characters have sometimes two sets of barks. This is one of them. In one scenario, they won't really recognize anything with it. In the other one, they remember it. So Highwayman has like a dream that feels too real, the manner, the night. The Crusader has, I recall the cold confinement of endless tunnels. Plague Doctor, does anyone else smell seaweed?
Ooh.
Flag, oddly familiar prominences, nice and sharp. Bounty Hunter, think I've been here before. Just straight up, just says it. Man-at-Arms, like something from my far-off childhood. Jester reminds me of a song that oft gets stuck in my head. The Leper, an echo of an earlier time manifest in ink.
Ooh.
A-Bomb, the deep throb of a heartbeat, a distant ticking.
Spoilers?
But here's the thing. The other two characters, Runaway and Duelist, have never been to the estate.
Right.
So, Runaway will say, creepy, but it's just a bunch of shapes. And Duelist will say, clearly I am missing something. Just a sketch, no?
Yeah.
So, people who have been to the estate, they still remember it. Just like Highwayman says, a dream that feels too real. But if you haven't been to the estate, it's just a weird painting.
Interesting. God, that's so cool. Love the idea of continuity. Okay, now the general trinkets.
So the first one right here is the Gilded Mind.
Oh yeah, you had this.
So you'll notice that it looks like the whatever the opposite of the Iron Crown symbol is.
Yeah.
Where it was blocking out the stress, but it looks similar to what the cultists in the Darkest Dungeon had on their head. Granted, theirs was to like imprint more stress into your head. This one prevents stress. So
that the removal of the Iron Crown? Is that why?
Yeah, looks like it. It blocks out the Iron Crown. You had one for the Sacrificial Host, right?
Oh yeah, this is kind of a reach, but this felt like something that came out of the Wield from the first game. Not exactly one of the dolls that they had, because the Virago's back and she has the same kind of like wicker looking doll, not so much this thing, but it comes with mushrooms, very Wield eminence, and also, or reminiscent rather, and it raises your blight resist at the cost of your bleed resist, where if you went to the Wield in the first game where the mushrooms were, they were very resistant to blight, but weak to bleed. So this just feels like something that came from there, if I had to guess. Let's not get caught up on the detail that the indelible version has no penalty. We don't, that goes against what I'm trying to say, so therefore it's not included.
So speaking of like busts of old people, the Parian Patriarch, right there. If you go to Darkest Dungeon 1, the heirlooms, the busts that we would get, those bear a striking semblance.
Oh, you're right. You're totally... Oh my goodness gracious. It's Thomas Jefferson. I'm kidding.
Maybe that is the ancestor, or one of his ancestors.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might be one of the aristocrats, like with the Crimson Court, because they wore powdered wigs, but the ancestor didn't. So I don't know if it's the same bust for sure. It just looks too identical. Not just the hair, the nose, the expression. Both of them have a little like kerchief around the neck. I would bet money this is the same one. This one was interesting.
You pointed this one out.
I did, but for the wrong reason. Because I saw the crossbones at the top, and I was like, is this something? And I asked you. And then you said, oh, it looks like it has comet dust inside of the powder. And, you know, that triggers the deep dive, so to speak. And so,
yeah. Whenever we see that color now, it's like a Pavlovian response to immediately think Color of Madness.
yes.
So, and when we look at what the distracting dust does, it can either blind your opponent or it gives them crit. So when you get hit in the face with the blinding dust, either you become distracted by it or the shards buff you and then you hit harder.
Yeah, because that's what it did that's what Comet Dust did in the first game. Yeah, I mean, the picture, it has that same tealish kind of tint. It's got the little sparkly specks in it as well, like the Distracting Dust did. And then just looking at this, if you use it in the first game, you get a damage buff and a speed buff. So, you know, it kind of prompts the idea that either the regular dust is so blinding that you can't do anything, or you get hit by the comet dust, maybe you inhale that or something like that, and all of a sudden you're like supercharged for a turn.
Since we're back to the Color of Madness, did you know that Bigby has a couple lines related to the comet?
I did not. Is in both games or just the first?
In the second game, he has a couple lines. There, a comet, a great streak across the sky. That is something he can say. And then, 'tis not stars that glitter yonder, but eyes.
Oh, wow. Those are both very direct.
Did we pass over the Hag's Horde?
Oh, they're both in the better section, I think. So, yeah, you notice the Hag's Horde.
Yeah, yep, the Hag's Horde. The Hag, I'm pretty sure those are the spoons that she would check the stew with. You had something for Galvanizing Goblet, right?
Yeah, this, one of the viewers in my stream actually put me onto this, I think, and this looks like the Tempting Goblet, possibly from the first game, because, you know, it has the Iron Crown, but instead of being super incredibly punishing via stress damage, this one kind of seems like a more purified version of it, where it's actually beneficial. So now you get, you know, extra blight dealt, and then you get stress resist. He said he's a very iconic enemy. It's goofy and dangerous, which is pretty cool for DD1.
And then doesn't he drop the goblet as a potential loot?
Oh my god, you're right! I forgot all about that! Look at, see, boom!
Yeah, right
okay,
there.
this cements
There it
it.
is.
Yeah, oh, great job. Good catch.
Yeah, the other ones that are very obvious.
These are giga spoilery. So, but I think if you're here, you don't care.
If you're here, you know.
Yeah. But
Right there, yeah.
These.
Have you encountered him in the game yet?
I finally did. Been in the game for like 5 months. I finally fought him once, like last week. I was so happy. I didn't get any items because I couldn't kill him, but
I think it's a great homage, and it all fits.
the thing I want to ask too is, why is the statue so freaking big? It's massive.
Hey, he was a big person. What can I say? If there was like,
That's fair.
you know, a Highwayman might be the poster child, but we all know who the main character was.
It's true. You're 100% right.
And then yeah, it ties back to ancestral trinkets from the first game, but obviously a little bit different. Everything except for maybe the mustache cream, everything looks a little
Updated.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, updated to the new art style.
It honestly, it can't escape the allegations that it looks like a Pringles can.
Now I can't unsee it.
Look, it looks like it even has eyeballs right here. Yeah, there's this and the Otherworldly Fragment. These come from Color of Madness. So this is like the shard dust that we showed earlier. And the Otherworldly Fragment looks like the Comet's Eye, even though it's in a much smaller package. Combat items. You know, I didn't catch this one. You said the Noisemaker.
Yeah, the Noisemaker. We were just talking about Butcher Circus, and the Noisemaker is one of the little mascots that accompany the Ringmaster. Oh, right there. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, these dudes.
Yeah, her little minions.
Yeah, so same helmet, have the little grill plate over the mouth and stuff like that. And so just to be annoying, cute little clown things, there's this.
Yep.
Which even has like the same colors too.
Do you want to talk about Laudanum?
We kind of referenced it, but we can show it off. So this is the same as it was in DD1. It did the same thing too. It removed horror.
Same with anti-venom and bandages.
Yes, so these were both in the first game as well. They were called the same thing. They did the same thing. Not the flat healing though. That's new. So I don't think this initially came in at the start of the game. I think this was added later. Someone can check me on that, but because everyone knows from the first game, if you played the first game, you remember Wilbur, which was a tiny little bastard. And these aren't like katanas, they're flags. He's an air marshal for traffic, okay?
Well, that's kind of just the whole thing about Wilbur, is that he's the one who's like directing the swine god or swine prince.
Yeah.
And so swine god, you'll notice he doesn't really have eyes. So I'm not exactly sure how he can see what Wilbur's flagging at, but however he does it, it works.
Yeah.
So Wilbur will flag someone down, and then the swine god will hit him with that cleaver.
So with Wilbur, you know, when you saw the elite version of the swine brood, everyone got like super excited. They're like, oh my god, it's Wilbur, he's huge. Means he survived that fight too, even though you do have to kill him at the end of it. It's not like you kill the swine god and he runs off.
Actually, you don't have to kill Wilbur at the end of that fight.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you can retreat.
So,
little known tactic.
You can retreat. Yeah, after you've killed the swine god, you can actually retreat. You don't have to kill Wilbur.
Yeah, so if you really want to angle it that way, it's like Wilbur canonically doesn't have to die. So I'm sure the wiki has to have caught that too, right there.
I'm pretty sure it's in the trivia. Is like, oh, there's the flag.
Yep, there it is right there. It looks pretty much identical. Oh yeah, and he has the attacks that the swine god had too. Obliterate body and obliterate mass. Okay, so pets. A lot of fun stuff with pets. So
yeah, so I think the wolf cub could be a reference to Brigand Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all there is. Like, it seems like a reference to Wolf, who would appear at the wolves at the door. That was his whole thing.
Yeah,
He'd show up to the hamlet. It's the first time the hamlet was ever under siege.
I don't think he started in the game either. He was patched in for that, which was pretty fun.
And he showed up late in the game too. Like, after it was close to around like the 80-week mark. Yep, right there. Wolves at the door will not occur before week 40. That's what it is. So I was 40 weeks off, but whatever.
Yeah. Just a little bit. This is very nice for Red Hook, so you can actually have a small chance of fighting him. You don't have to worry about it. You can also sacrifice a hero and he'll leave for a while and come back. The Pliskin is a shield breaker reference.
100% shield breaker reference.
I think the pets are the biggest chance they had to do like just fun references to the first game. You took all these deadly, horrifying creatures, then you made them cute.
Yeah, that pretty much summarizes it. Like, look at the little guy. He's adorable.
It was this thing.
It grows up into this. It's the Pokemon evolution.
It is. Oh my goodness. And so
the reanimated rabbit.
You found this one.
So the rabbit was a weird one because, you know, they on the wiki they say that the spine is exposed, rotten flesh similar to the rabid Nasher enemy, which is the dog. But I thought it's probably closer to the ancestors' experiments with the undead, and so which. I mean, granted, maybe the Rabbit Nasher is also one of those experiments. Like, when the ancestor was going around trying all these different meats to reanimate, he mentions that he found that pig flesh worked best.
Yeah.
Which means that he probably experimented on a lot of stuff before then. So I figured, hey, why not rabbit? Like,
yeah,
rabbits, dogs, cats, like whatever he can get his hands on.
Yeah, I could totally see that in some kind of, you know, strange, psychotic way. Because don't serial killers do that? Please don't demonetize us, YouTube. But like, you know, practice on small animals first.
You know, the ancestor has quite a body count, is what I will say.
Not the good kind either.
No, well, maybe if you, according to the Crimson Court, both kinds.
All right, next. The slime. This is the same as the wheeled enemy from DD1. So it looks the exact same.
Yep. And speaking of slime, which can be found in the catacombs, did you know that the abomination has been in the catacombs? And we'll note that he heard the beastmen while he was down there.
Oh. What do you say?
I heard them myself at times in the catacombs.
Yeah, that makes sense. They all come, like, with Abomination, you get the Catacombs area, and it came with the Free Kingdoms update. They gave us the Beastmen, so it's like, they came in through the sewers.
You think that's where the Coven came from, too?
You know, I got so many questions about the Coven in terms of, like, origin and goal, and kind of like the timeline of what happens in the Kingdoms modules. I really want to see if I can talk to Chris and ask him.
It's interesting. So in the one live stream, they mentioned that each faction has their like home turf. That's like the final area you fight them in. So
Yes.
there's the tundra, in the Tangle, and then in the Shroud for the Crimson Court. So I'm curious about that one.
Yeah, because usually when they have the faction-specific encounters in the regions they're supposed to be hailing from, it looks the part. Like the Coven, you know, you fight, and I think one of the backgrounds, it's the tree with everyone's severed hand that was in the Weald. It's also in this game, and you know, the Beastmen, that they make sure the arena fits the snow. I'm really wondering how they're going to fit in the Crimson Court to the Shroud, because I know, like, you know, when it's humid and wet, mosquitoes breed in like small water, stuff like that, but I don't know how that works with the sea.
But in the meantime, Shrieker.
Yeah, direct reference. There's a boss called the Shrieker in the first game, and this is its baby. Like, exactly the same. Bird up.
Burn up.
It's even in the same pose. Look at this. You weren't even trying, Chris. Come on. It's even got the little back feathers.
What's next?
I think it's the Croc. Oh, no, it's the Larval Carrion Eater.
That can be found in the Warrens.
Yeah, it's another...
Eating all them corpses.
The same one. Looks the same. Acts the same. Has the xenomorph mouth. Maybe that just makes it extra creepy. All right.
All right, now you're Crocodilian.
Yep, the Crocodilian. This is, again, another DD1 enemy reference. The mini-boss from the Crimson Court. A famous clip of me getting fucking hit for triple crit by Apex Predator. Classic.
Oof.
It's the same thing. And when you fight the boss in the first game, it relies a lot on movement and positioning, and same thing with the pet. You know, you get buffs for movement and positioning. The next one, the Tick, and I think they're called, what, Sycophants?
So there's the Sycophants, which are the ones that, they're the mosquitoes.
Supplicants.
The Supplicants are the ones that have the ticks attached to their head. Yeah.
Yep, this little guy stays really cute, but it's like, ooh, woo, can I eat your brain? Ooh, woo. And you go, okay.
Ugh. And they're coming back. They are coming back.
That's right. I
With
don't have the
vengeance.
pictures on hand, but they are returning.
Shambler, pretty much, of course, Shambler. The Shambler spawn, so little baby Shambler.
The thing, too, is Shambler canonically female, which is horrifying to comprehend, but this should help you cement the idea.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. If the Shambler's female, does that mean the shuffling whore in the Darkest Dungeon was the male?
I don't know. What if it was? That's crazy to think about.
You can still find Shambler even after you go into the Darkest Dungeon and defeat the shuffling whore.
But there's only one shuffling horror. That's interesting to think about. I hadn't thought about that.
He was already possessed by the heart. He had all the tumors growing on him. I don't know. I was just throwing it out there.
Yeah, because, man, that's, again, if you're watching this, you should expect spoilers, so we'll drop all the way down. But the shuffling horror, interesting thing about this is when you fight it, its eyes don't light up like the normal Shambler eyes don't, but I think these ones do. So this thing is just being piloted like a parasite.
Do we want to get to in items?
I think we did in. Do you mean Stagecoach?
I'm sorry, I meant Stagecoach.
Yeah, let's see. Trapmaker Kit. Which has a DD1 quote.
Curious is the trap maker's art.
Yes, curious is the trap maker's art.
This is only half of the quote, too, from the first game. The second half is his efficacy unwitnessed by his own eyes, which kind of raises the question, like, there really are craftsmen out there that make stuff that they'll never get to see. In the case of traps. Like, you make it, you install it, you leave, and it just goes off. You may never see it again. All right. The stew pot. I didn't even notice this until I read it in your thing.
Yeah, so it has a face on the cauldron that is very similar to the Hag's cauldron. that weird demonic face, whatever that is.
It's a little weird because they don't usually have demons in that sense in this universe, so it's kind of,
Yeah.
I guess, just to be spooky.
Well, I think it's just some sort of horned creature. Like, oh, I just thought of something. What if it's? I just had a brain blast there. Horned creatures. What if it's the Beast Clan? Like they witnessed something from the Beast Clan and they thought that they were demons, and then they made something to resemble what they saw. In this case, it was some sort of horned creature.
Oh my goodness, you might be right, especially because they have what kind of looks like a, I don't know, like a blight infection.
Yeah, but if you go to look at the Rotclaw Alpha, or like one of the Rotclaws.
Yeah, we'll do the alpha.
Yeah, they have that horned expression, or the horns start to grow on them, and
Yeah, this is definitely something for a later time, but there's a really interesting crossover with how the Beastmen shape up, because it's like they're coming out of the tundra, they use the catacombs presumably to infiltrate the kingdom. They look like they might have a blight disease, like a weald level disease on them, and the Shrieker's in the weald, and you have the Shrieker looking eyes across the face on the more advanced ones. So there's probably something there.
also, if you notice, the infection. So if you go to the Huntsman and look at the Huntsman,
Yeah, because it's the least infected.
yeah, when they're human like that, the infection is on the left side.
Yeah, it's always the left arm.
It is always the left, and when you go look at A-Bomb, his infection is also on the left.
Yeah.
So something happens where it starts in the right, or I'm sorry, it starts in the left and just progresses across their body.
Maybe just whatever infects people just really likes the left side. We can take a break from clicking between like two tabs on a bunch of pictures, and we can just do in-name.
Yeah, so if we go to the inns, a lot of these inns are references to things in Darkest Dungeon 1. So the first one, you had the Butcher's Feast.
Yeah, this just kind of seems like it'd be the Butcher Circus, and this one is, I believe, not in the actual game. It's unused.
I thought there was one that was actually named the Butcher Circus that they
Oh, that's probably it.
actually just cut.
Yeah, maybe
and then
that's
replaced
it.
with the Butcher's Feast.
The next one, at least on the list, was Hag's Cauldron.
Hag's Cauldron, yep.
Pretty self-explanatory from the previous images. In the first game, when the hag pretty much just straight kidnaps one of your party members and throws them into the pot, their hands are the things sticking out. So it's very reminiscent of this. I really wish that Chris took it a step further, or whoever did this, and they gave the fingers 4 hands instead of, or the hands 4 fingers instead of 5. But
Oh, yes. Oh, I remember that day.
for those unaware, in DD1, all of the heroes had 4 fingers instead of 5. Bounty Hunter, I believe, is the strangest of all, because if he goes virtuous, which is the same as resolute, his picture, one hand has 5 fingers, the other has 4. Goofiest thing ever.
Speaking of Bounty Hunter, here's a bark for you. Did you know that before the Plague Eaters became the Plague Eaters, the Bounty Hunter mentions that he used to work for them?
Makes sense, they got the money.
Yep, a chance to hunt an old client. Ha.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, it makes total sense that he'd work from there if he had to pick somewhere.
The Good Doctor, I think that's a Plague Doctor reference.
Yeah, it
Kind of.
they probably like the TV show, The Good Doctor,
Yeah.
and then obviously there's Plague Doctor up here. The other one, this is a very small, probably nonsensical reference, but the first game, the Hamlet had a well. So is this that well from there? I don't know.
The Loot and Dagger.
Oh, the Loot and Dagger. Did you have something for this one?
I think it's just a Jester reference.
Yeah.
Loots and daggers. That's
Yeah, that's all his stuff. Chris do be liking the Jester.
the Miller's Bounty.
The Miller before his whole life went to hell. Next one.
Nomad's Wagon.
Yeah, there's
That was
building.
a DD1 building.
Yep.
Yep. That's where you could buy your trinkets in Darkest Dungeon 1.
And even the Provisioner that pops up, I think, I don't know if it's when you buy from what part of the store, but yeah, this same characters in DD2, like 1-to-1.
Yep. Nomad's Wagon. She reappears. Who else?
Oh, the guild people.
Guilds. Yep. So she definitely reappears as the Mastery Trainer.
The one on the left,
She
she's
re-
the Mastery Trainer.
Yep. And I think, I'm not entirely sure if the one on the right becomes the Wainwright, but I have no idea. It feels like they would be together since they're together here.
Yeah, it's kind of weird they only took one, but
And the old guild hall is another
inn.
is an inn. The old guild hall.
The inn itself reference to DD1, the mastery trainer reference to DD1 as well. The rusty blade, again, just might be a coincidence, but the swords and stuff on here are very similar to a curio. Yeah, the Warrens had a rack of blades, and a lot of these look similar. The rusty blade, rack of blades, probably doesn't mean anything, but it's fun to think about. All right, Shambler's Altar, you know, we already talked about it before. It's in both games.
And then, the stumbling corpse. Two things. If you look at the corpse itself, kind of a reference to the undead army in the ruins. And then the quote tied with it is the ancestor quote, "They can be beaten, they can be felled," which is what he says after he's after a fight.
Tempting Goblet, pretty much direct. I mean, it's a direct reference to the courtier, what it's known for, and even the quote says, "Try the wine."
Vestal's secret. I think we all know her secret.
I know it's weird that she looks kind of happy here, or devious and stuff, considering what happened. I can illuminate some of these because the testers actually got to name them. So after we got to test kingdoms, we got to pick in names. A lot of them are just referencing like cute alliteration things, but there are quite a few that reference the games themselves. So the ones that I remember having stuff for here, the Bearer's Bugle was the Bone Bearer from the first game because it has a bugle. The Bound Blade, that's a reference to the Binding Blade DLC. Sleeper's Dream, Color of Madness, I might have named that one. Wolf's Folly, Brigand Wolf, who's also in Kingdoms, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
The Waif Sacrifice, referencing the Waif and Siren from the Cove in the first game, like the Ancestor calls her a waif. The Baron's Gambit refers to the Baron, and it's kind of a play on the Queen's Gambit. The Viscount's Pantry, from Crimson Court, the Viscount had a lot of food in his arena, so that's referencing that, and his mechanic was eating. Siren's Call, another DD1 reference. The Preacher's Pulpit.
In Darkest Dungeon 1, when you face the Prophet, the items he gives are the Consecrated Pew. And the Consecrated Pew has a description that says it's the pew that the followers of the Prophet would sit and listen to his sermons. And so I just thought the Preacher's Pulpit references to the Prophet who was preaching at his flock.
It definitely could be.
Pulpit is where the preacher typically stands. So maybe there's something there, maybe not, but I just figured throw that one in.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel it. I agree with it because like when I hear preacher referencing either game, I'm thinking the Prophet because that's pretty much what he's doing. He was like screaming to people to listen and help them. So the Knight and Rogue, Crusader Highwayman reference. The Rich Patrician could be the Ancestor. He was a rich nobleman. The Chipped Tooth, this is referencing Damien's trinket in the first game, Flagellan's trinket, where he has a literal chipped tooth. The Fleet Florin is referencing Antiquarian because that's one of her trinkets. Clowning King, Jester and Leper reference. The Adder's Kiss, that's one of her attacks right here. So there's another shield breaker reference. The Little Pig was a reference to the swine, so it's probably Wilbur. Corvid's Eye is a quirk from DD1. Yeah, you can get it from fighting the Shrieker. The Smoldering Pyre, possibly Fanatic? Kind of seems fitting. Yeah, straight up had one. So, and it's Smoldering.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say that's Fanatic. Black and Goat, probably Black Phillip, because it is a goat. Jester's Lament, is it the Jester? I would say it is. The Fever Dream, it's a reference to a Shambler quote. So in DD1, when you beat the Shambler, the Ancestor, like when you come out of the next dimension, the Void, the Ancestor says, it could be dismissed as a fever dream if not for the corpses, meaning you're surrounded by a bunch of dead monsters. So Shrieker's Nest, just referring to the boss fight of the Shrieker in the first game, you fight the bird and the nest at the same time. The Old Mill, this is referencing Color of Madness. The Gibbous Moon, an event for DD1 A-Bomb, is that when like idle abominations gain a level or something?
Yep. That's when idle abominations gain 1 level of resolve. There is a gibbous moon out tonight, and they warn something about the howling. I remember that. Speaking of abomination, did you know that the abomination has a fear of water?
I did not.
Through clenched teeth, I've a fear of water. He says that when he's at an oasis and does not want to go in.
Let's see, the next one, Black Cat's Talent. This is what you were speaking of before. reference to Edgar Allan Poe, the Black Cat story, or the Black Cat pets, or the story, yeah.
The knotted pigskin or pligskin.
Pliskin, it's another Shieldbreaker reference.
Amani's Rest, that's the Shieldbreaker's canonical name. True Shot and Millicent.
Yeah, I wasn't
That,
too sure on this one. I think you filled this in.
yep, that's Arbalest's Crimson Court trinket and her, I want to say, level 6 weapon.
Oh, yeah. Millicent, yep, that's her weapon.
Yep. That's her
Survivor of the
weapon.
Army. Is True Shot with, I bet you True Shot's with Musketeer.
Is it Musketeer?
It could be. I would not be surprised if the two of them are in the same inn, yeah.
Yep.
Very cool.
The Forgotten Home. So, in Arbalest's lore, related to her quotes and things she'll say in Darkest Dungeon 1, she will mention how she doesn't remember what her home was like.
Oh, really?
So, I think that's an Arbalest reference, but I'm not entirely sure.
You know, I want to give the dad credit for protecting her, but he sent her out with, like, no arrows.
And then the last one, Miller House.
Yeah. Another Miller reference.
So I think all we got left now are the enemies. I guess we can just hit the 2 backgrounds real quick.
Yeah, okay. So with enemies, just starting from top to bottom here. The Creature Den, these are all enemies from the first game, besides Gander. These got leaked, like, early on in, no joke, like December 2021, right after early access. The spiders got leaked and everyone thought they were, like, fake. They're like, these look too weird to be real, but then they were. So besides the Iron Crowns, I couldn't find anything with the cultists or the fanatics, really.
So I got a couple quotes for you about the fanatics and really
Okay.
the sprawl in general.
All right.
If we want to hit those real quick.
Yeah, of course.
There are a couple characters who have a connection to the sprawl
Ooh.
before it became the sprawl.
Yeah.
The first is the grave robber, who mentions, "How funny, I dined at this estate once. Good riddance."
I wonder whose estate that was. Some other noble?
Potentially, I think. I mean, her husband seemed pretty, at least looked like he had money. So, possibly there. The runaway has extensively explored the sprawl.
She probably
She'll
caused
say-
it.
Maybe potentially caused it even. Well, we know that. I know these streets like the back of my hand, and a lot of treasure in this trash if you know where to dig. Those are 2 things that she will say.
Okay, she's probably living there after she was orphaned and stuff like that and just trying to survive.
The jester has been in the cities and will say, "Well, the decorum has certainly changed, and let me loose in these alleys. I'll bring back something shiny."
Ooh, another treasure finder.
And the last one is Plague Doctor, who said, "The streets near the university should be wide enough."
Should be widened. Oh my god.
Wide enough.
Oh,
No.
wide enough. For the
Yeah.
wagon. Yeah.
For the wagon. This just says this as they're riding through the wagon. Or
Interesting.
on the stagecoach.
You think the Great Library is part of the university? Or is it just something else?
I think it is part of the university. They mentioned in the, the academic and the protege were both attending the university when the Great Library caught flame.
Oh,
First time.
Yeah.
There was that fire that wiped out their research. Spoiler.
Yeah, I know. Does that mean the Plague Doctor went to
And-
school out here?
Went to that university in the school?
possibly.
I think so, yeah. And the last one is the occultist, who mentions he knows what the fanatics seek out, and he says, "That which the fanatics seek is most profane."
Are they seeking the void too, like he did?
Potentially. It just sounds like he knows something about them. That quote, that bark, will only appear if he has fanatic hater or fanatic...
Slayer?
The specific quirk, yeah, fanatic slayer.
Yeah.
So when he has that, that's what he'll say.
That's crazy. Good deep dive. I like that. All right, there's actually a few with the shroud, and you're talking about backgrounds. We can actually see it in this one, so let us know. Illuminate.
Well, there is a curio in Darkest Dungeon 1 called the Bas Relief. Bas Relief?
I think Wayne says Ba.
Ba?
I used to say boss or whatever.
It appears in the cove, and that weird, like, cylindrical object with a bunch of veins around it, that appears on the obelisks as well.
Oh, I didn't catch that one.
What's worth noting, too, it appears on the door to the Darkest Dungeon in the first Darkest Dungeon, in that cutscene.
Yeah, I was gonna say this makes me think of the heart, like gestating.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then if you take a shovel to it in Darkest Dungeon 1, it looks like the door is opening, which is why it causes an intense amount of stress.
Yeah, you get the instant resolve check, pretty much, the 100.
Yep.
Oh.
And in the Shroud, it's worth noting that the occultist can sense when the pelagics are near.
Of course he can.
And the line is something in me retches when those pelagic fiends draw near. So potentially, I think it's when he says something within me, I think the shambler that's within him can sense when the pelagics are near.
Yeah, I was gonna say, kind of. I mean, this place is straight up Shadow of Rinsmith, I think. So,
Yep.
I could see that kind of like just the Eldritch forces in different forms. Like these are pelagic, like fish people and stuff like that. And Occultist has like a shambler, so I could see them recognizing each other. That makes a lot of sense.
And last thing for the occultist, he has once killed for water before, possibly in the desert.
I mean, if you're gonna kill for water, that's the place to do it. You don't do that at the beach.
Nope. So his exact words are, "I have slain a man for a water skin once."
Damn.
So something happened to that desert. That things got dark.
Make sure to read My Time in the Desert, on sale now. Get your free vial of sand.
Do you want me to give you the last quote I had for the
Yes,
Shroud?
of course.
Okay. This one is for the leper. The leper has commanded a fleet and makes a comment on it when he's in the Shroud. "I commanded a fleet in ages past."
What? Damn, Baldwin.
So
Got the foot soldiers, got the boat soldiers.
apparently Baldwin has a navy, or had a navy at one point. But go ahead, take it away with the fisher folk.
Yes, so there are actually quite a few DD references here. The bosun have a move, like these are pretty much upgraded pelagic groupers from the first game. So the only link between them is the move spearfishing, but the launch ranks are actually the same. You know, they get spearfishing, they can only use it in the back. They can only hit the back ranks. And the same thing with bosun, you get spearfishing in the back ranks to target the back ranks, and it pulls. And instead of seaward slash, which is a ton of damage, it just has a disruptive thing to push instead of pull. And sodden rigging is new. All right, the next one is with the Docker. So a lot of people are going, oh, when are we going to get the Unclean Giant back? You actually had it before, it was the Docker. So the Docker has a moveset that's pretty much the exact same as the Unclean Giant, where it's got the single target hard-hitting melee attack with a Hullbreaker, and then it has the Party Shuffle. This is one of the things that pisses me off to no end in DD1, is that Confusion Spores is not something that individually moves every single person in the party. It causes shuffle in the party. So if it hits one person, it can scramble the entire party, which is BS. And so a lot of people like to think Custode is the same as... I mean, the Custode's kind of close to the Giant, but the Custode is actually not as close as Docker, I would argue. And then the final one is Leviathan, which looks just like a pelagic grouper. Well, looks very similar to a pelagic grouper, but...
Yeah, like almost, I wouldn't say one-to-one, but just like imagine if the pelagic grouper never stopped growing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Wilbur to Big Wilbur transition. This is like the small grouper to big grouper. The last thing I had in there was this boss is basically the Hag from the first game, but done a bit better. So the core mechanic's the same. It takes someone from you and, you know, tries to kill them over time if you don't save them. The Hag had the same mechanic. A lot of the region bosses share mechanics to the first game, like how Leviathan's pretty much a different type of Hag. Yeah, Prophet kind of got split, in my opinion, with Dreaming General. I guess I'll just start at him. But in both these bosses, so Librarian and the General, when you fight the Prophet in DD1, the most important thing to have is rank 4 reach. So you have to be able to hit the back line, because otherwise you're chopping through wood for the first, 5 turns of the fight. And kind of the same thing with this, you have to be able to hit rank 4, which is the root. If you don't, you die, you take like massive damage, and it tries to kill you with the dot, which is how Prophet operated, where it would mark specific spots that you can move in and out from, just like Waking Dead. And if you're in there when the timer goes off, it does an absolute ton of damage. And instead of a blight spit on the whole party, like the Prophet had, Waking Dead will bleed you and try and kill you that way. So functionally, they're very similar in terms of the attacks. Whereas with Librarian, it was more just, you have one guy in the back that can't see, just like the Prophet, that also has destructible environment that pulls it forward. Except you don't want to pull this guy forward. So the Foot Soldier is very similar to how the... what was it called? Not the Rabble. It's the Bone Soldier. Foot Soldier, Bone Soldier. These pretty much have the same move sets. They have a pretty hard-hitting attack that goes from rank 3 into rank 1 on both sides, which is what this guy has. And if you put them in rank 4, they have a forward 1 move, same like this guy. So these are pretty much the same enemy.
So a quote for you about the Tangle. The Highwayman mentions that he once buried treasure in the Tangle.
Why doesn't he find it? We need that.
Actually, funny you mentioned that. We buried caches in roots sometimes. I think I found one. If you take him to the Tangle, I think it's Tangle Navigator or Tangle Explorer. That's when he'll say that.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, the last little bit that we have for the Lost Battalion is that the classic Bone Bearer is pretty much split into 2 enemies here, at least the core mechanics. So the big things with this dude were the buffs it threw out, on its allies and made everyone stronger, and it had the ability to revive enemies. The Bishop can revive people, which is frustrating at times. The Drummer hands out a lot of buffs, but this time it kind of makes different sense because they're like orders, like the Drummer's a higher rank than the soldiers it's with, like it's telling them to do stuff. For the Plague Eaters, as I said before, the Flesh is my favorite boss in the first game, and the Harvest Child is the Flesh. It has the same mechanics, and even one of the same attacks. So with the Flesh, it had 4 parts that would randomly shapeshift, between turns. This is actually a butt that has a tentacle, which is terrifying to think about. But the Flesh Head, because each one of these has 1 attack, and the Flesh Head had Maws of Life. Did the same thing. It was up front. I think it had a chance of cleaving. I can't remember. I feel like it did. Oh, wait, on Champion, right? Yeah. 20% chance of extra target. And it would do that up front, and then in the back, it would spit Blight at you, which is exactly what Harvest Child does. So in the back, it spits Blight at you with these 2, and it cleaves. And in the front, it bleeds, but then also cleaves you. So it had all of that going for it, and I mean, it kind of looks like it. It's just a lump of nastiness. The Swine. I don't know if you have the quote on hand, but this was like our first bit of connection between the 2 games that we could find.
Yeah, so there was actually 2 quotes where they referenced the Hamlet. So there's the one where they quoted it in the East, and there was another one where they said it was in the West.
I think Chris said one of those was a mistake. I forget which one.
I don't remember either, but it's like, yeah, so that's like the biggest connection is like at one point, we knew like the direction of the estate is that it was like in the West or in the East, but since then it's been like who knows where its actual location is, and that's why there's like this weird other space where we could theorize that you can reach the estate and you can leave it, but you will never be able to point it out on a map.
Well, it's kind of like some Pirates of the Caribbean. You need the compass.
Yes, you actually need a compass to find the estate, and once you do and you leave, you cannot go back the same way you came.
Interesting. Oh,
and that's just my theory.
No, I agree with it, because it's kind of like in the intro when they talk about the old road, how it's like serpentine and just very confusing.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have something else?
Well, just here's one reference. The Fulgore is actually a not primal rage. What's the fighting
Killer
game?
Instinct.
Killer Instinct. Yes, the robot Fulgore.
Yeah, I got some. It goes a step further. I think the reason it's called Fulgore, it's not so much the look. I think it's because in the old Killer Instinct, some of Fulgore's like voice lines were done with like pig squeals or something.
Oh, I had no idea.
Another one is like there are a lot of references among the champion enemies. Like people don't know what Gander is. It was like a Canadian dog during like a service dog or something during World War II. And it was like a famous dog they had. But the one I remember hearing is that no one has found out what Kindred is. No one knows what this reference is. It's not Kindred, it's Kinred. It's different. So if anyone out there feels like doing some sleuthing and you figure it out, let us know.
Black Phillip, that's a reference to the Witch.
Which one? The Lich?
No, the Witch. It's the witch, but they spell it with 2 V's.
Oh, okay.
They're artsy.
Yeah.
It's an old, or not old, but it's a horror movie about pilgrims. Let me pull it up.
It's always pilgrims. It's the only time witches existed out in the town of Salem after the Mayflower came over in 1499.
Yep. Let me see here. It is set in the 1630s New England. The narrative follows a Puritan family who are preyed upon by evil forces in the woods beyond their farm.
Ooh, I like that. It's fitting.
So.
You know, there's a lot of farming happening here. The swine themselves, Skyver, Skeever, Skiver, however you say it. I say Skyver, but this thing came from DD1. Straight up, same attacks. It was just a big asshole in the first game. Arguably more.
The slime.
Yeah. Returning.
Returning, and the catacombs.
Now they're armed, which is a little scarier. They weren't armed before. You know, if you ever get a chance, I didn't see this till I was making a video, but in the catacombs, you know how the 2 slimes can merge into one, right?
Mm-hmm.
During the transformation, slow that down and go like frame by frame, and you'll see them like move around and combine. And this body right here is the coolest part. Like, it comes from like inside the slime, it pops out, and the guy looks like he's trying to escape, and then he just falls over dead.
Whew. That is dark.
Yeah, it's a pretty gnarly animation. Do we have anything for the gaunt? Oh, besides Ghoul.
Just Ghoul's return.
Oh, and the urchin. Yeah, so the urchin is actually a Madman reference from the first game. It operates the same, where both are kind of hard to pin down and kill, whereas the Madman had a ton of evasion and a lot of speed. The urchin has stealth, and they both cause a lot of stress. They're both frustrating. But the biggest thing tying them together is the music box. The urchin attacks with the music box and hits you with Haunting Melody and Song of Shadows. The Madman drops music boxes rarely once you defeat it, so you can get one of these per playthrough, like a copy of each. You can get all 3. Pillagers. This whole group actually is pretty referencey. So the Pillager Hatchet Men is just the same as the Sword Bandit without the upgrades, the Brigand Cutthroat. Pillager Crackshot. Actually, there's just a red variant of these guys. I think it's the veteran variant. But yeah, I can't show it with these, you know, because the wiki doesn't have the extra colors, but there are green bandits and there are red bandits. I think they're only red and veteran, so it's referencing both difficulties. The implication is straight up the boss from DD1.
How many variants did that one have? It had 3 variants, and each one just got progressively heavier, so it was 8-pounder, 12-pounder, 16-pounder.
Yeah, so any of you that have gone bowling probably understand this. All right, and then anti...
Yep.
Yeah.
You were the chosen one, Auntie.
Anti-Q! Chris said, I think, because everyone's like, why did she betray? It's so messed up. And it's like, because she's the closest to evil out of the cast. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be her.
Oh, I remember, actually, during one of the streams, he mentions that she is actually the current leader of the Brigands.
She is.
She overthrew Wolf.
She is. Person that asked that question, thick veiny sausage. But I'm glad you covered that, because that is a cool little part of kind of inferred lore that got confirmed, where she beat Wolf and took control of the Brigands from him. And so presumably that's why Wolf is helping you, or one of the reasons, because he doesn't really have anyone else.
Yeah. So, Hoarder is definitely Caretaker.
Oh, 100%.
He has a ton of stuff on him that is related to being the Caretaker. He has a painting of the Ancestor, he has a bust, he has a few deeds.
He's straight up the Caretaker, as you said from the first game. He's just a walking reference.
I think that's all we have, except for that last little bit that we want to talk about.
The Obsession Confession is the most interesting from a narrative standpoint, because this is the one that ties the two games together.
So you know something that I didn't know because you talked to Chris.
Oh,
So-
yeah. Okay. So,
So here's what I know from the outside looking in. We learn that at the end of chapter 2, we get a letter with
Yes.
the Iron Crown on it. Take another shot.
yeah.
And it informs the academic and the protege to go to a house in the countryside. And it's when they arrive, they meet the ancestor, and he welcomes him in. Welcomes to join him and his guests, and they dine underneath a banner with the Iron Crown atop it. And throughout the night, as they talk to these individuals, they learn more and more that they plan for a ritual the evening. And the academic was very hesitant to go through with this ritual, but the protege wanted to. Finally, the academic convinced the protege, we're not safe. We gotta barricade ourselves inside of our room. Like, we're not safe here. So that's what he did. And when they awoke the next morning, all the other guests were murdered, except for them. And the ancestor was gone.
And so the connection to the first game, this is what I ended up asking directly to, was that the veteran necromancer that you get narration for, because you get a bit of the story each time.
I entertained a delegation of experts from overseas, eager to plumb the depths of their knowledge and share with them certain techniques and alchemical processes I had found to yield wondrous and terrifying results. Having learned all I could from my visiting guests, I murdered them as they slept.
They were here this night. This is the night it's referring to when, and this is, I got this confirmed directly. I'm sorry, Chris, I'm leaking DMs, but it was the same night. So the academic and protege survived, but this is when it happened. So they got the idea and stuff about the Iron Crown. They met up with some other people and they bailed out while the ancestor killed everyone else. And so that's when the paths only came together for a little bit and then they split apart. But otherwise, I think that this is... I think this is a really important piece for everyone to know, just because everyone's always like, well, how do these events transpire? Are they in the same timeline, same universe, and stuff like that? And this is where it is. This is where they connect.
Yep. It is like the fulcrum point where
Yes.
I wouldn't say all of our characters, because we never see the heir, he never arrives, but until later, but the academic, the protege, and the ancestor, that trifecta, this is where they met that night when, they had a delegation of experts from overseas, and he brought them all together, and I guess they tried the ritual and maybe it failed, and then they all went to bed, but the ancestor woke up that night, slit their throats, tried to perform the ritual and couldn't, and then he skedaddled. Like, that's how I kind of see that event playing out.
Yeah, this is where it gets kind of messy, because like in the DD1 story, it starts off where it sounds like the ancestor's your friend and he's on your side and stuff like that. But the more like boss narration and stuff that you find, the more you realize that he's a dick and all this is his fault. And so this is kind of like, it's always if it's like a 3-act story, it's always the middle part, the veteran parts, the veteran bosses, where it starts to kind of slip and go the other way.
I kind of agree. I think it's more that he's very upfront in saying this is my fault. And
True.
we initially you could assume that it's like, oh, he made a mistake. But as the story progresses, it's revealed like, oh, no, you didn't just make a mistake. You made a choice.
Yeah. That's a better way to say it.
Those were bad choices that you made. You did this. You slit these people's throats. You sacrificed the waif. You brought in like mercenaries to intimidate the town. It's like he does all this horrible stuff.
Yeah, it's just taking me back. I'm going through all like the narrations and I'm like, yep, right there.
Yeah, it's yeah. So that is almost every reference. I think we're going to get a lot more come Module 3 for Kingdoms.
Oh yeah.
Having the Crimson Court return is going to definitely illuminate a lot more, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Great segue, by the way. So we're going to wrap up here. So looking forward to all the K3 stuff. Massive thank you to Miskatonic for joining us. I mean, he came up with legit most of this, did all the digging in the barks, and if you want the lore master perspective on DD1, and do you have some DD2 videos as well?
Oh yeah, we have all the regions, all the confessions, all the factions, as of whenever it was 8 months ago, before pre-Kingdoms, Binding. No, it was during Binding Blade, so pre-Kingdoms.
Yeah,
but expect more Kingdoms content soon. That's what I will tease.
It's a great job doing it. So if you really want to get all of this fantastic deep diving, if you like this type of content, definitely go to Miskatonic. Literally the master. I love the videos. I first found you through the Ancestor lore video. That's the one that I remember blowing up.
Oh yeah, that was my magnum opus.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit. Like the whole time I was just going, holy shit.
It was great too, because if you watched all the hero lores from start to finish, it builds to the Ancestor.
That's a great way to do it in terms of storytelling too. You kind of like take all these threads and then bind them together.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to thank you, Chef, for bringing me on. It was awesome to talk to a fellow DD connoisseur, and I'm a huge fan of the channel. I was watching you I watched you before I started making my own content, and I still watch your content to this day.
Oh man, thank you. I love hearing it. Yeah, it was a blast. It's always great to just get two freaking nerds together and just watch them spew out a bunch of stuff. I mean, I hope the viewers enjoyed it too.
Just go mad with like figuring everything out and connecting with it, and because we both understand it, like this is what we do, this is our passion. So yeah. The shorthand, we are basically on the same wavelength.
Yes, definitely agree with that. And the whole process was just fun, because we had the shared Google Doc, just throwing stuff in, but then also even in this video, just made extra connections that weren't there before. So there's always just more. There's always more out there.
Just keep digging, man. You never know what you're going to discover. And according to Chris, there's still stuff in Darkest Dungeon 1 that we haven't found yet.
I know, that's wild to think about. Like, you have to go into the files. Is it cut content, or is it just straight up we just didn't find something that was right in front of our faces?
So if you got I just got to talk to you about this afterwards, after the camera cuts.
Yeah.
I got to ask you some stuff.
Okay. With that note, we will actually end the video. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Miskatonic. I'll leave all the appropriate links down below, and if there's enough stuff, maybe either he'll make something for K3 or we'll reconvene. We'll see. But thanks for watching.
Yeah,
thanks to
I'm
Miskatonic. And now I will let you get the final word.
Subscribe.
Always max CPM pushing the content. I love it. All right. See y'all later.
All right. See ya.